The judge didn't shout, didn't threaten, didn't even look angry. He just leaned forward and said it like he was reading the weather life in prison, and just like that, the room went quiet in a way I had never felt before, the kind of quiet that presses on your chest. I remember thinking, this can't be real. This has to be one of those moments you wake up from, because I was 17, I had never been arrested, I had never even been in a fight, and now grown men were walking toward me with cuffs, like my life had already ended. I asked for my call. My voice came out smaller than I expected, and when I picked up the phone, I didn't call a friend, I didn't call a lawyer, I called my dad. And when he answered, I said, "Dad, they gave me life." Yeah, that happened. People like to imagine injustice as something loud and obvious, like someone screaming in your face, but most of the time it's quiet, polite procedural. It wears a suit and tells you everything is being done by the book. Before all this, I was the kid everyone pointed to when they wanted to say the system worked. Good grades, test scores. Nobody argued with acceptance letters that made teachers smile and counselors nod like they had something to do with it. I grew up in a town where people smiled at you but watched you a little too closely, where being one of the few black kids meant you learned early how to stay calm, how to be careful, how to not give anyone a reason. You know what I mean? My dad had climbed all the way to the top of the legal world first, black attorney general, national respect, big speeches, but most of the time he was gone. And I don't blame him, not really, but it meant my mom and I handled the day-to-day stuff on our own. The night everything broke was supposed to be normal. Homecoming. A suit that didn't quite feel like me. My mom fixing my tie, taking pictures like she wanted to freeze time for a second. My date waiting downstairs, nervous and excited, music already in our heads. I remember thinking, just get through tonight, then college, then I'm out of here. The gym was loud, hot, full of eyes. Some curious, some not so friendly. And then there was Logan, the quarterback, the town's golden boy. We had history, not violent history, just the kind where you beat someone at something they thought belonged to them. I'd won student body president months earlier, fair and square, and he never let it go. He made comments that night just loud enough to land jokes that weren't really jokes. I told my date to ignore it, squeezed her hand, tried to keep the night moving. Later I stepped outside for air because sometimes you just need space. That's when I heard shouting in the parking lot. Drunk voices. Laughter that wasn't funny. I walked closer and saw Logan and a couple of his friends surrounding this older homeless man who slept behind the school sometimes. They were kicking his cart, laughing, telling him to move, telling him to perform. Something in me snapped. Not anger, exactly, more like instinct. I said, "Hey, leave him alone." Logan turned, smiling in that way that says he already thinks he's won. He said something about me playing hero, about my dad, about thinking I was better than everyone. I pulled out my phone and said I was recording. That changed the energy fast. Everything after that felt like it happened in pieces. Logan lunged. I put my hands up. I backed away. He swung, missed, and then his foot caught the curb and he went down hard, head first, a sound I still hear sometimes when things get quiet. Blood everywhere. I dropped down, yelling for help, telling someone to call an ambulance. People ran. Sirens came. But the first thing that arrived wasn't help. It was police. Guns out. Voices sharp. "Get on the ground." I tried to explain. He fell. I didn't touch him. Logan's friends suddenly remembered a different version of the night. They said I attacked him. My date ran out screaming. The homeless man tried to speak and got shoved away. I was cuffed, pushed into a car, watching as Logan was loaded into an ambulance like he was the only victim that mattered. At the station, I asked to call my mom. Again and again. They ignored me for hours. A detective finally told me Logan was in a coma and his family wanted attempted murder charges. I told them about the cameras, the footage, the truth. He nodded like he cared. By morning, the footage was gone. Just gone. No explanation. The story was already written. My mugshot next to Logan's football portrait. Headlines asking if I thought I was above the law. My dad was overseas, unreachable, completely unaware that everything he'd spent his life believing in was chewing up his kid. The trial moved fast. Too fast. I was charged as an adult. Lawyers suddenly weren't available. Conflicts. Schedules. Polite no's. The judge had a reputation, harsh sentences, especially for people who looked like me. My public defender was exhausted, juggling more cases than anyone should. Witnesses who could have helped disappeared or were blocked. Character testimony was called irrelevant. The jury barely deliberated. Guilty. When the sentence came down, even the prosecutor looked shocked. Life. I watched my mom collapse. I didn't feel anything at first. Just empty. As they led me away, I didn't notice the quiet nod between the judge and a man in an expensive suit sitting in the back. But later I learned about private prisons, about quotas, about how long sentences are worth money. Prison teaches you things fast. It strips you down literally and mentally. I was placed with people who had been inside longer than I'd been alive. Guards laughed when they recognized my last name. Guess Daddy couldn't save you. Phone calls got denied, forms got lost, special instructions. I learned when to speak and when not to. I learned how to sleep lightly. I learned how to pretend you're not afraid. Days blurred together until one afternoon finally they let me call home. My dad answered. I told him everything as fast as I could before the clock ran out. I heard his voice change, confusion to anger to something cold and focused. He said, "This stops now." What happened next felt unreal. Quiet investigations, people asking questions, patterns emerging, judges with financial ties, sentencing disparities, backup footage recovered showing exactly what I said happened. Inside things got worse before they got better. Guards beat me in a blind spot, whispered threats reminded me how powerless I was. Then my dad made a move that shocked everyone. He stepped down, became a private citizen, filed federal motions, witnesses recanted. Even Logan testified, admitted he was drunk, admitted he fell, admitted I never touched him. The federal judge didn't hesitate. Ordered my release, ordered investigations. Walking out of prison felt strange, the air felt different. I was free, but I wasn't the same. Cameras flashed. My dad spoke once, said this wasn't just about me. Private prison companies collapsed. Judges were charged. Hundreds of cases reopened. I took time before college, chose law reform, something bigger than myself. And here's the thing that still keeps me up sometimes. If I didn't have that phone number, if my dad wasn't who he was, would anyone have listened? How many people are still inside because no one powerful picked up their call? That's what I want to know what you think. Was this justice or was it luck? Have you seen something like this happen where you're from? Drop your thoughts. Argue with me if you want, tell your story. Because the only way this stuff changes is if we keep talking about it, even when it's uncomfortable.